learning how to use the aim and break. Let's get into this. We're using Ableton. I'm using Ableton today, and I want to show this off because I feel like there's not a lot of good tutorials on YouTube, and I feel like they're not very helpful. And I'm going to show how I make a jungle and breakcore, drum and bass style music using the aim and break. Uh, so, uh, the sampler I'll be using is Amigo, and it's a pretty good program. It's very simple to use and to understand. So we'll be using this, and you need a sampler that can load an audio file and slice it into different sections. There's a native the native sampler in Ableton will do just fine, but you can use Amigo. And so here's the aim and break. So there's many ways to acquire the aim and break, but I downloaded it from online from YouTube, and I just put it through a tape machine so it could have that tape sound already on it, and that's about it pretty much. And how it has it's my way of adding character to the Amen. So you're going to want to put this into sections. So we're going to be focusing on the first part of the Amen break. And to do this, we'll just move the marker over. There's something very important that I'm going to try and teach today. Well, that I will teach is that finding the end and start points. So you actually in some wave files of percussion, there's a whole bunch of sound, or there's a lot of waves going on right before the sound, and actually that is the beginning of the next sound. So you want to have your cursor, or you want to at least, if you're going to use a sound, you'll want to start right before that, when the waves start to go a little crazy here. You see that? So actually it's all the way over here. So and it happens like this because it's still a little bit of the last sound, but the next sound's starting. Actually, we'll start it from over here, because there does seem to be the beginning of the next sound around here, but we'll kind of find a happy medium here, which is right here. So what I'm trying to say is, for example, it might be difficult to find the beginning of the sounds. Making sure that the sampler's in slice mode so I can put markers down where the slices are, but it might be difficult. You might be looking at this and wondering where the beginning of the sample is. Is the beginning here, or is it over here? And actually the beginning of the sample is over here. When the wave starts to dramatically change, you see it's very constant, but then it starts to change. And as I explained, because this is the beginning of the next sound happening. So you're going to want that part as well. And that would be the end of the previous sound. So the way to chop and break is you're going to want to do this. The aim and break is great because it splits like almost perfectly into 8 different sections. There's something that we have to do first before we make our sections. So this is important for like any drum break, pretty much. This is what you have to do. You have to so for the note that we're using as reference is the C note. You have to put a C note down, and the goal is to get the sample loop perfectly at your desired BPM. So set a BPM that you want your song to be. I'm gonna choose 178, and then you put a trigger note down, which is C. You want to use the original C in most samplers is the original way the sound will be played back in middle C. So like move the C up or move the note up in the within the octave, it'll play back faster than it originally was. So that's why we're using middle C to play the note back. See, look, here it is. And so the goal here, we need to get the very beginning of this sample of noise here that I don't think I want. So we'll just kind of trim it, the whole sample down. And again, we do want this beginning portion because this is the beginning of the sound. So we'll use this point. And now it's it'll trigger a lot sooner. Okay. Let me get this correct. Because if you don't, you're like a really nasty, abrupt ending to this sound. And every sound needs to play as seamlessly as possible. Okay, that sounds good. So I have a nice clean cut of the aim and break. Okay, very good. So now we're going to press play on the sequencer. And the goal is to get it to loop perfectly at 178 BPM. How do we do that? We raise the pitch up so that the sample plays back faster within the sampler. And a technique I like to use is pitching the sample faster so that it has a gap at the very end so that it finishes earlier than before the loop actually loops again. So after that point you can slow the sample down using fine tune. Sometimes there's not always like a well, never mind. Like sometimes all you have is pitch to look at and focus on, but I think most samplers have fine tune. That's how you get more specific with the speed of the sample playback. Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. We'll take that. I think it's in playback. Already sounding like, so when we press play, it's going to play back perfectly at 78 BPM. We're actually going to raise the volume of the sound because I want it to be more profound and louder. So we'll do that. Okay, so once you do that, you can now find your breaks, your independent sounds within the drum loop. So how do you do this? Just put markers down where you want your start of your samples to be. But some people will do this in ways. Actually, some people will just get the sounds they need, and then some people will take entire chunks, but I like to get like individual sounds. Well, I for the break, actually I like to split it into 8 sections. It's really well, and I'll show you the sections right here. These are the sections. If we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now all I have to do is find the start points of every sound. So I would say that the start point of this is probably right here, because it kind of you see the wave kind of gradually goes up from here, and that would be even the end point of that sound. That seems good. We can play it back on the keyboard because every sound gets played back on the keyboard now. And in this mode, like even though the note is higher on the keyboard, if we look here, it's being triggering it on my MIDI keyboard. The pitch has because this is only meant to play back every sound that you have, like divided individually by a key on the keyboard. So it starts at middle C and then ends middle G. So the next sound is this snare sound, and it looks to me as if this sound kind of starts right here. Actually, it starts more over here. So let's listen to that. Sounds really good, actually. Now this kick is this is like a ugly sound. I think this is the ugliest part of the amen, the first part of the amen, and we'll go ahead and just right here. We'll say it starts. I really think it's more accurate right here. So we'll move this marker over and then see how that sounds. Yeah, it doesn't sound too good. And we got like a shaker thing going on. And actually, yeah, that seems like a good start point. Let me see. That seems good. And then we have another one actually. Then over. Wait. It's this one's so important because it sounds very different. we got to make sure that this kind of starts over here. You can see the wave starts to get more intense. I would say right here. Good. And then there's a snare here over a note. The snare, I'm going to say it really starts here, but I'm my rule because I want the sound to start here and sir. That's good. And depending on depending on where this sound starts, this sound will, you know, end more abruptly, or even it could have, like, if you don't do this properly and find the actual beginning and ends properly, there could be, like, since you're using the sound, well, the next sound could clash over into the current sound, and then that'll create a pop. It potentially can create a pop, and you don't want that. You want nice crisp playback. And then this one's clear, like there's a lot of energy here from the kick, so we want to make sure we have that. We'll keep the marker, I'd say, like right here. Let's hear it. Good. And you see now, actually, we have the aim and break is so popular, I feel, because it's able to be split perfectly into these 8 sections, and you can even do, I think, 4 sections. It would be something like 1, 2, and then 3, and then 4, something like that, right? So and if you do that, it'll play back, you know, it'll have its own benefits. Actually, it sounds different. It sounds like the notes being played longer. Sounds more organic, like real percussion. So beginning. So here's the reason why this is successful, and here's why people do. We've pretty much already done the work. Is because now you take notes, okay, and place them along a sequencer of 16 steps, right? And the sounds, it doesn't matter, like almost doesn't matter how you arrange them, as long as they're beginning at a possible hit. They'll sound somewhat deep. And since they're pitched appropriately, take up the same amount of time, and they won't overlap with each other, and it just works in this way, and they'll play through properly. So, like, this will fit into here time wise because it's been pitched at the BPM. That's why you have to do all things prior. You have to BPM, you have to pitch the sample that match the BPM, and then when you take your certain sections, they'll play perfect. Let's start making patterns here. And let's use original. Actually, let me show a demonstration as to what we have now. So we have the notes all here, and it should play back. Let's quantize quick. And should play the original sound. now we can rearrange these sounds to how we want them to sound. So we can really like do stuff like this, like take little chunks and then just move the notes down a little bit like this, and then take these, like move them over here. This is a cool loop, so we're actually going to start building a track now. Very cool. I like how this sounds. And I'm just going to quickly save so I don't lose my progress. Jungle demo. Save. Okay. I really like this first section. This first section is cool. So we're going to duplicate and just repeat. With some variations. So we'll vary this. And then we'll make this 4 bars. Okay. And I'll show you a popular pattern here is to do this. To do a kick and shaker, kick, shaker. It's kind of intense sounds. Yeah, and then watch this. Snare. You're supposed to really do this 4 times in a row. It's kind of like a pattern, to be honest. Okay, we'll do this 4, and then we'll go back into a snare, perhaps. That could sound cool. Or we could do kicks. Another pattern that's popular is kick, shaker, and that really moves patterns through. Another pattern that is perfectly viable in jungle. Jungle is a snare. Hold on real quick. Is a snare at the top of every hit, okay, and then shaker, and then a different snare. You can do this. And look what happens when you repeat it. Creates that triplet sound, right? And then back to, and you have to start these patterns at the top of every hit. So it's every like 1, 2, 3, like 1, 2, 3, 4. Are you right here? And then but you could use them as like there's actually, it's because you have to take into consideration that it's an uneven beginning. They're not gonna, the starts are not gonna be evenly placed throughout 16 note bar. You have to follow the drum and bass formula here for this of your triplets. So the starts are 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2, and those numbers can change, right? 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. You see. As long as you follow that formula for hits for when they start, you'll be golden. You'll be able to make tracks completely, as I am doing right now. We're gonna just do an eight bar loop, and show as many techniques as I can. And so let's go ahead and do that traditional loop that I do all the time. Is this, right? I'll just do shaker, kick, shaker, snare. Remember that one, because I used the wrong notes. That's okay. Right. A snare. We can use this snare for some variation. Actually, we can do these snares, and then the last one will be over here. And you don't want to put notes, right? If you have 16 hits, you want to put notes like right here in between those hits, right? There's 8 opportunities to add notes. You don't want to put notes here, in between that, because then that'll be out of time. That's why. Okay. Okay, cool. Another pattern that you can do is kick, snare, kick, snare, kick, snare. Just the same way as you did hi-hats. It works. And then you can go back to the kick and then more snares. And it is acceptable to do notes back to back, but they have to be used as stutters. So like abrupt ends that are more profound, and then constant. Go back to constant sounds. So check this out. That's possible to do. Nothing sounded too weird. You do 2 kicks back to back here. It's very much acceptable. But then that third note, you're looking for that hit there. So, as long as everything kind of starts with a snare and ends with a kick. Another pattern you can do is you can do snare, shaker, kick. Check it out. Let me make sure that's the correct sound. Yeah, that is. So this is what it plays. And then the sound you can do is shaker, snare, kick, but I can't show that here. So that's fine. And then we'll just do kick. We'll do double snares. We'll do triple snares. We'll do quadruple snares, because I'm going to show something that you can do with snares. So for this technique, we'll duplicate this track. We'll duplicate this track, and so now we have 2 amigos running. We got amigos together. We're gonna take the second track and delete all the stuff that isn't the snare that we're about to use. I'm gonna repitch the snare to go upwards here, and we're gonna create a really intense repeat, which will sound very cool. We're going to turn these into very small notes. I think these would be 32 notes, 30-second notes. I think so. Correct? I'm correct. So that I don't mislead. If you here we have like these little notes here. Yeah. All right. So, but there's an issue here. All right, because we just have to find the sound that we want, the snare sound. So we're gonna have to actually turn this back into poly mode here. Or yeah, poly mode. So it's back like an instrument. So we just need the snare, right? And you just take that part of the snare that you need. Ideally, you would sample the snare from the previous kit and then import that here, but to save time, I'm just showing myself just use the part that I need. So, so you can now use this sound. And now we delete everything else so that they don't overlap, play at the same time. And over here, we make sure that this is deleted. All right, so let's hear this with the new snare going up like a stair step. That was pretty good. Let me fix something. There's something I wasn't particularly happy with. It's fine. All right. So now I'm going to show automation. You can change effects, but this is how you make jungle, right? You just take certain parts of the loop and then trigger them back through MIDI. And just for educational reasons, we'll show the pattern playing through. We'll show how the sounds are triggered, and we can see how what notes are triggering them. So we'll just play it back. So that's how you go from the original break to, okay, and that's how you jungle. But now we can do some extra techniques. One thing I want to do is show off time stretch. So we'll do it with this glitch here, okay? This, well, I call it like a little stutter repeat glitch. It's a repeat. So let's exit out of that amigo and make sure we're in the correct one. Okay, so to do automations, you go into the envelope section, at least Ableton, that's what you, and we're gonna start adding time stretch. So we have to trigger time, and how we do this is we go to time stretch. I believe there's a stretch, and this is to enable. So you bring the marker up, and so on just this section, time stretch will be in. So that now time stretch has been applied. Now it's different. Let's go back. So time stretch kind of sound slower, but it glitches out the sound a little bit. Has glitch sounds. Actually, let's get more fancy and let's mess with the cycle length. So this part right here, this little section, okay. And again, we're just gonna the section that we want. Not gonna add in a whole bunch. All right. So let's make it go down. Let's see what kind of effect that has. Like it's gonna go down, and then we can zoom in. So you see in this little step, it's gonna kind of start at 1,000, go down to 760, then it's gonna go back up past 1,000. Let's see how that sounds. Sounds pretty cool actually. So it was this, the cycle length, and then let's change let's go over here to the automation options. Let's change the stretch length. And we'll make it more intense. We'll just like all the way we'll start at like 505, go to 7, we'll go to 80. That sounds pretty cool. So that's how you get that glitching sound. And that'll change the print live. That's what's so cool about automation, and time stretching is such a classic technique used in jungle and bass, breakcore, all this kind of thing. And not can do time stretch in real time. Only like not a lot of instruments can. I don't think really any. Probably one. Sam, I think, can do it has something to do with live time stretching. Old time stretch, the Akai samplers do old time stretch. They're the samplers that are famous for it, but they are pre-edited and then played back how they were affected. To do something in real time, you'll need a in real time. You'll need a plugin, and they're not very common. It's not a very like abundant thing. This Amigo is just like this company is just like focused on this type of music. Okay, so let me just kind of improve the sound, and that'll be it. So we're gonna boost the sound with a audio plugin. And all you need to do is just turn this is almost so good at mimicking analog sound that all you need to do is just turn this knob up a little bit, kind of boost some of the frequencies a little. Pretty good. And you're golden. And then one more thing. Let's add distortion. time with no microphone on my behalf, and we'll get into Alright, so that's how you jungle with the aim and break. So there you go. Thanks for watching.